we need to talk about a massive error in how we think about success. We've all been sold this myth, right? That strategic genius is all about making these huge, all-in, bet-the-farm decisions. But what if that whole idea is the very thing setting us up to fail? What if the reason we get so paralyzed isn't a lack of courage, but a bug in the strategy itself? The fact that we're trying to make decisions that are just, well, they're too big to ever work.
So this really gets to the heart of a battle we all fight inside our own heads. On the left, you've got the grand strategist, the hero we think we're supposed to be. They've got the master plan, they're ready to make that one big, irreversible choice that changes everything. And then on the right, you have the iterative prober. Now this is the person who actually wins in a world you can't predict. They're not making one giant bet, they're sending out a dozen small probes. They're not guessing, they're collecting real-time data from tiny steps they can easily take back. We're all taught to be the one on the left, but let's be real, it's the one on the right who comes out on top.
And that leads us to this core paradox. Just let this one sink in for a second. The bigger the decision, the more likely the failure. Now, this isn't just a nice motivational quote, it's a hard principle from complexity science. In any system where you can't predict what's coming next, which, by the way, is every system that matters, making a giant irreversible bet isn't brave, it's just fragile. It means one single mistake can be catastrophic. The real secret to avoiding huge failures isn't to think harder, it's to think smaller.
Okay, so here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we're going to unpack the strategist paradox and see why thinking big is actually a trap. Then we'll look at the problem up close in the rigidity trap. After that, we get to the solution, the MVD protocol. We'll back that up with some real science in the biology of momentum, give you a concrete action plan with your 48-hour sprint, and then wrap it all up with a new mantra to live by. Think small to win big.
All right, let's jump into our first section. This is where we get into a struggle that so many of us know all too well. It's that feeling, you have a huge, important goal, and you are just completely stuck. We call it analysis paralysis. But what if that's not some personal failing? What if it's just a symptom of a deeply flawed strategy that we've been taught our entire lives?
So does this sound familiar? You've got this big ambition. Maybe it's launching a business, switching careers, leading a huge project, but you're just spinning your wheels, absolutely terrified of making the wrong move. Here's the key thing to get. That paralysis, it's not a character flaw. It's a totally rational biological response. You're trying to make a decision that's so big, with consequences that feel so permanent, that your brain is correctly screaming, "Danger!" and slamming on the emergency brake.
And so here's the counterintuitive fix. You have to stop trying to build the perfect master plan. Stop trying to get it 100% right on the first try. Your goal needs to shift from being right to becoming informed. And you need to do it as quickly and as cheaply as you possibly can. How? With a series of tiny 48-hour probes. Think of it like this. You're not trying to sprint across a minefield in one go. You're just trying to figure out where the very next mine is without even taking a full step.
Okay, let's keep moving, because the danger with these big bets isn't just that they might go wrong. It's what happens after they go wrong. It's about locking ourselves into a situation where recovery is next to impossible. This is the agony of walking through what Jeff Bezos famously calls a one-way door, a decision you just can't reverse, when you have no idea what's waiting for you on the other side.
And this dangerous state, it has a name: strategic rigidity. This is the enemy. It's that awful, gut-wrenching feeling when you know deep down that something isn't working, but you've already invested so much time, so much ego, so much money, that turning back feels like admitting a massive personal failure. And pay attention to that word biologically. This isn't just a bad strategy, it's a state where your own brain chemistry, your survival instincts are actively working against you, practically forcing you to double down on a losing hand.
So strategic rigidity shows up as a few different cognitive traps that I'm sure we've all felt. First up, there's path dependency. You're just so far down one road that any other option feels completely impossible. Then you've got the famous sunk cost fallacy. We've all been there. Pouring more money into a car that keeps breaking down, or staying in a job you can't stand because you spent 4 years getting the degree for it. And all of this leads to pivot panic, which is exactly what it sounds like: the sheer terror of changing course when the stakes feel sky high. That is the psychological prison that big decisions build for us.
But, and this is a big but, here's the good news. There is a way out. And this brings us to the real heart of this whole explainer, the solution. We've diagnosed the illness, we've seen the trap. So now, let's talk about the system. And this isn't just a new mindset, it is a structured, repeatable protocol for making choices that are anti-fragile, choices that don't just survive feedback,
they actually get stronger because of it. Okay, so here it is, the protocol. It's a three-part system. First, decision atomization. You take a huge, scary choice like, I'm going to launch a new company, and you shrink it down to its smallest possible testable unit, its atom. So the atom isn't launch the company, it's build a one-page website to see if anyone signs up. Second, the 48-hour feedback loop. You only make choices that give you real, actual data within 2 days. If you can't learn something by Wednesday, the decision is still too big. And finally, the reversible pivot gate. You design every single choice as a two-way door. If the data comes back negative, you just walk right back through, no harm done, only now you're smarter. This protocol, it's like sonar for your career.
Now, this mental shift is everything. When you use this protocol, you're no longer a gambler making these high-stakes bets in the dark. You are now a scientist running a series of controlled experiments. And in science, there is literally no such thing as a failed experiment. A negative result isn't a failure, it's just incredibly valuable data. It tells you exactly where not to go next. Suddenly, failure isn't something to be afraid of. It's just information you can use to get smart.
Okay, this all might sound great in theory, but its real power, its true magic, is unlocked when you understand why it works on a biological level. This is not just some productivity hack, this is a way to align your strategy with your own neurochemistry to build absolutely unstoppable momentum. Just look at the difference here. When you're facing a huge, irreversible bet, your brain's fear center, the amygdala, goes into total overdrive. You're flooded with loss aversion, and you're forced into pure strategic guessing. But when you make a minimum viable decision, a small, safe choice, your brain shifts into exploration mode. It releases a key neurochemical that literally primes your brain for focus and creative problem solving. You are, in a very real sense, biologically smarter when the stakes are low. You're lowering the cost of being wrong, so you can stop guessing and start adapting.
And this chart shows us something psychologists call the winner effect. A single high-stakes bet, even if you win, is so stressful beforehand that the confidence boost you get is actually pretty small. But a series of 10 small, successful MVDs, 10 tiny wins, one after another, that creates a cascade of dopamine in your brain. It builds real psychological momentum and a powerful feeling of competence. You'll actually feel more capable and be more likely to succeed after 10 small wins than after one giant gamble.
All right, that's enough theory. Let's get practical. How do you take this protocol and actually put it into action? Like in the next 48 hours. This is all about turning this insight into an immediate habit. So I want you to think about your biggest, most stressful project right now. The one that's causing all that analysis paralysis. Now ask yourself this question. This is the atomization test. What is the absolute smallest version of that decision that you can fully execute by tomorrow afternoon? So if you want to write a book, don't write the book. Write the first page and send it to 3 friends you trust for feedback. Find the atom. And before you act on that atom, run it through this one last safety check, the two-way door audit. It's a dead simple checklist. 1, if this fails, can I reverse it easily? 2, how long would it take to get right back to where I am right now? And here's the hard rule. If the answer to that is more than a week, your decision is still too big. You have to shrink it again until it passes the test. This makes every move you make fundamentally safe. Because in this early phase of any project, your goal is not perfection. It is not about moving flawlessly towards some perfect outcome you imagined. The only metric that truly matters right now is your speed of data. How fast can you learn what's working and what isn't? By the end of the week, you might not have solved the whole giant problem, but you will have definitively proven that 5 different paths were dead ends. You aren't moving slow, you are learning incredibly fast. Okay, let's bring it all home. We've gone from diagnosing a broken strategy to the protocol that fixes it, and finally to how you can apply it right now. So let's distill this entire philosophy down into one powerful mantra that will change how you make every single decision from this day forward. This right here is the new mindset. First, perfection is a lagging indicator. It only shows up after you've done tons of iterations. The true leading indicator of success is frequency. How many small, smart probes are you running every week? So stop trying to guess the future. You can't see it. No one can. Instead, start probing the present. Get real data right now.
And it all comes down to this. This is the new mantra. Put it on your desk, write it on your whiteboard, get it in your head. Think small to win big. Those breakthrough successes, the career-defining moments, they are not the product of one giant leap of faith. They are the inevitable biological and strategic byproduct of hundreds and hundreds of tiny, intelligent choices. So here is your challenge. I want you to take your biggest, most stressful decision, the one that's keeping you up at night. As soon as this explainer is done, find the atom of that choice, the smallest possible version you can test. And then I want you to execute it in the next 48 hours. Get the data. Stop the big mistake before it even has a chance to happen. The only question left is, what will it be?